My name is Helge Schenk, so I'm doing the introduction level here for the Panasonic IPIT Kairos platform, which is a GPU-based system. So I will finish my camera function here just to keep the network load down. Anyway, so Kairos is based on off-the-shelf components on a computer platform, on IPIT platform, and we're using graphics cards to render video on the machine. So I see that they're all booting my systems here. So the main difference here is when we're comparing this to a, let's say, for instance, generic FPGA switcher, so to speak, like any other ME bank type of a switcher. I always run into the issue that have to live with the boundaries of what is the hardware platform delivering. So saying, okay, is it a 4ME switcher, 2ME, 8ME, whatever? At the end of the day, anyway, I always stuck in these boundaries of that hardware. On a GPU-based system, the only thing from essence actually is what you see here in my upper right corner of my main screen of the GUI. That is actually the workload of my actual system at this moment. That's the only thing for me as a TD from interest. Here, it's more like a Photoshop style type of work. So if I need another ME, what we call a scene, so I just simply add another scene, and then if I need another layer or another keyer, I make another one. So I don't stuck in, let's say, this limits of 8 keys available in the MEs on modern switches nowadays. If I need a 9th or 10th or 12th, I just simply do that, what I need to do in order to make my effect work well. So if that's a 9 split or it's a 16 split, whatever, so I can build this in a single, so to speak, ME. Again, this is what we call a scene. That's where we take this from. Now, when you see my main screen over here, my main GUI, you see that is right now I'm on the so-called mixer tab. On the mixer tab, I see my virtual kind of control panel, my scenes menu, transitions, audio mixer, painter, which is a graphical device. And from here on, you're going to realize that we are menu-wise only one level deep in terms of a menu structure. So when I click on the mixer main tab over here, so you see there's my mixer tab over here, the Multiviewer tab, macros, sources, configuration, and setup. That's everything what I have in the system. So from here on, I can reach any other menu with a one keystroke, so to speak. So of course, if that is a touch screen, of course, I can also use the touch for that. So I'm using the mouse at this moment. And this, again, is just my so-called control panel over here. Now, what I would like you to introduce to start with, actually, first of all, is the Multiviewer, because there's some special functionality within the Multiviewer also, which allows me to share you the screen over here. So the layout over here, what you see, my Multiviewer 1 and my Multiviewer 2. In the lower left corner, you see that 10 individual presets from the factory. So can you say I want to do a quad split over here, so then I'm starting with a quad split, or this is with a 10 split or a 25 split or whatever split. I simply click on the screen and just put it on. On the right hand side, I have another 12 presets where I want to actually put on my my user presets, so to speak. So I can right mouse click over here, so I can store, I can recall, I can rename, I can clear the layout. Now, when I want to move one of these elements, or want to change the source for that, so I simply click on that one, and then I can use the move button over here. So I can use that screen over here just to move that beast around. Use the wheel, changing the size, but you can say also interacting functionality over here. So it is my slider for the size. I can use that drag pad over here just to use the positioning on the thing. And so on. So there are some more functions over here. So there's some generic functions like audio for the Multiviewer, whereby this means that is the actual audio selected for the HDMI output feeding that screen. That is this audio, that's the speaker symbol over here. And this is what I see as a preview, that there's audio on. So I have an audio delay for that to compensate runtime for the display. I can also change the volume. I have the volume controls over here. The audio source could be different than, could be anything from the system. doesn't have to be necessarily main in this case, which is my so-called main scene. I could all call this Peter, Paul, Mary. It's just a freaking name, not more. However, though, every tile individually has also multiple more functions. So I can move the position around, I can change the size, I can rotate the image 90, 180, 270. I can put the label, so there's a under monitor display in here, so I can have this inside the image, outside the image, or can hide it. The text color, background color for the thing, background opacity, and how many audio channels are present, and what is the orientation, vertical or horizontal. These are all individual things which I have per tile of the multiviewer. In order to change the source of a tile, you can simply go into the seat. That's tile number 1, tile number 2, up till 10. So this is also a list over here of a maximum of 36. What is possible in here? I can simply click over here to double click and open the source window, or double click on the tile to open the source window, or use the source dialog down here and open that up. However, though, I have some more objects I can fill into that thing, saying I have a digital clock, analog clocks, countdown counter, and I can also put the GPU meter, so this metering, into the multiviewer. And from here on, then easy, even though I don't have a monitor connected, I can go into a so-called live view. So that's the live view style of my multiviewer number 1, and that's the live view of my multiviewer number 2. So you see then here's the analog clock, the digital clock, a text block over here. Same for this one over here. There's a countdown clock within here, and the macro I can also then run with a macro, be a panel macro. I can pause the countdown. I can reset the countdown. I can set different preset times for that. So I'm using macros on my control panel right next to me, just to do this type of control. And this is what I'm dealing with. So that's my layout. Now for my sources, of course, I have my input sources, my regular input sources. I have color mats. So I have also some type of special mats over here, which I can also adjust and do special things with that. I can also use this previews over here, whereby this is not just a preview of the color, it's also a preview of, when you see that softness, for instance, I can crank down the softness. You will see that in here right away. Say I want to change the angle. So this is also a preview of what I'm doing there. Put the softness back on, and of course can change the position here as well. So I want to move this around. I can handle that as well. For my special type of colors, I have this over here, which I can deal with, saying, just to get you an idea, I will go to the multiviewer over here, again to my layout, and saying on my multiviewer number 2, I want to have a quad, let's say multiviewer number 1, I want to have my quad split, like this one over here. And we move this around to find this object in a different place. Use this one. Okay, so now I have main over here. When I look at the live view from my multiviewer number 1, so you see a secondary GUI down here, and saying in that GUI, I want to see as a source some of my special color mats. So I'm going to a secondary GUI over here to control this. You see this now here in that lower right corner. So using a secondary GUI screen to change my source. And here I want to go to my color mats over here. And this color mats, let's say you see this shaped background. So you get something like this over here, or another one like this, like a star field over here, and you can change color and geometry and whatnot. So just, and there's a star field, a moving star field, which is kind of hard to see this over the web, but this is like you're flying through the universe, so to speak. That's what this special type of an effect is recreating here in a color mat. Okay, close this and coming back. However, color mats have built-in clip players. There's a 2-channel device actually where I can play back straight away and live decode from H.264, H.265, ABC Intra, QuickTime movie files. Right now, there's still some negotiation between Apple and Panasonic. So at this moment in time, there is no, it's not legal that we're playing back ProRes, but it's going to come there. closely to finalize that contract. That ProRes is also available. And per channel, we have clip players in here, so we can loop the clip plays. We can autoplay the clip list. We can loop a single clip over here in the clip players over here as well. So this is playing back straight from the system drive. And now from here, we have also the RAM players, which have another 20 gigabyte RAM in the standard version. In the gold version is 64 gigabyte of RAM. So you see that checkerboard over here, which is indicating that the clip contains also alpha, and I only would need a single channel to play fill and key straight away. So I don't have to sacrifice a secondary channel for that. Also per channel, I have another clip list functionality, a playlist functionality per channel. Then we have the still memory. By the way, this RAM recorder is based on the CPU RAM memory, and the stills is based on the GPU memory, which is another gigabyte on the standard version, and I think it's 7 gig was it 7 or was it 10 gig on the gold version. And again, over here, when I'm going to a fill key layer, you see the checkerboard comes up with that, so I know already that alpha is part of the file. So you don't have to do this manually, so to speak, to make a conversion of the image. So we're reading TGA, PNG, TIFF, TAGA files, bitmap files, and it's auto converted while you're importing the image. On the effects inputs, we would use effects inputs. Let's say, for instance, if we build artificial cross point, let's say I want to have camera 1 with a branded cross point, like a branded source into it, like coach cam, whatever cam, reverse angle cam. So I can create as many virtual inputs as I want to based on a single source or based on sometimes multiple sources as well. This is all about the sources. Now going into the scenes menu over here and going to my main. So we have the sources, all of them, and now I need to figure
Helge, you couldn't give us a brief overview on the home screen and what you're going to find if you just come to the mixer initially. Just literally the very basics of the screen and the layout, the structure of the screen, if that's possible.
That's what I did at the beginning.
Sorry, I might have missed that, but just no, just in the sense that you know, we're talking about inputs, keys, and bits and pieces like that. We want to just try and get some of the basics out of the way as per the poll.
Yeah. Okay. Again, so this is my mixer tab. That's what I was starting with all the different menu levels over here. So I have only one. It's only one level deep. So we're starting with the main menu. What comes up with it's my virtual, so to speak, control panel over here. Program preset and one of the layers at this moment, which I can delegate and I can map any scene into any of the ME banks. And in the scenes menu over here, that's where I start dealing with the different structures of my, so to speak, ME or scene banks. In transitions, that's what we typically start with when creating a new scene. Audio mixer, we're going to go through the audio mixer. It will take another day for sure. So coming back to the scene. So you see that's my scene, which is called ME1. So even though saying I need another ME bank. So in a hardware type of a switch and a generic FPGA switcher, if I have a 2ME, that's a 2ME. It won't get a 3 or a 4 or a 5. Here is as simple as saying, you know what, I need another scene. And just that I can call this thing Peter, or I can call this ME2. It's just a freaking name. So I can use the context menu to rename or use the F2 key in my keyboard to open this up. Let's say I call it ME2, just that we're not too distracted. I want to change the order. I can move this thing up and down over here now because on the bottom position, move it up. Now here's my ME2. So if I need another one, I make another one, and so on and so on and so on. Now inserting a new scene like this, this is actually a wizard offering me a new name. So let's call this beast an ME3. Offers me a background with 4 layers, but it could be also a background with isolated, so no layers at all, no keys at all, or sitting with 6. However, though, saying I want to make it 6 and confirm. Now this one is the one with 6, and I'll move this up over here, and you see layer 6. But even though if that is not enough, I insert a new layer if I need 10 or so. Yeah, and offers number 7. Number 7 is awesome. Get me another one. I want to insert a new layer. I can also use the context menu over here. Control L over here. Layer 8, wonderful. Control L, and Control L, I can also go in and saying, you know what, take this number 10 and I copy and paste this. So I use the context menu again, cut, copy and paste. In this case, I use the keyboard Control Z, V, and I keep going with it, right? And this is not eating up anything so far, as long as they're not enabled or whatnot. It's just now a, so to speak, scene/ME bank containing, what is it, 15 or 16 layers or something like that. Just to get an idea. It's more like Photoshop, just for live video. Deleting this over here and get you an idea what is the difference between a layer versus a keyer. Saying, take my background over here, and to this background, I want to use one of my RAM banks, my RAM memories also, and clicking on the source, so I can pick any cross point, regardless if it's mapped to the cross point or not. And I show that in a second to map this on a cross point. And we'll use, in this case, I can use the channel number 1, but I can also use any loaded clip. I don't have to necessarily use a player channel for that. Now this is on, and in my layer number 1, I will turn the layer on, so turn the eyeball on, and the source I will use just a simple internal color bar, nothing too special. Okay, coming to my live view, and this is how it looks like then over here. So it's my color bar covering the background entirely. That's the preview side of it. Coming back to the scenes, so for this layer I want to turn on my chroma key. The chroma key default is sitting on green. Now, going to the last menu, I can also use the Control Tab shortcut. So I'm going back to the live view very quickly and flip forth and back. So the last 10 menu items are listed in here. So I can also cycle through that like that. Live view, so you see chroma key on green. But what if I need a secondary color from my source? Now, there are very few switches where you can do this at all. Most of the time you need then a secondary ME and another key and so on and so on. On a GPU-based system, saying is as simple as adding a new effect. These are just the base load of effects, but there's a whole lot of more effects I can apply to. Saying, want to do a secondary chroma key, I turn this on, turn this off for a moment, and then later on I will slide the U control off. And coming back to the live view, you see it's also on green at this moment. Changing the chroma key over here on the setting, changing the hue and we'll put it more to the bluish side, yellowish side, and switching back. Now you see it's more on yellowish, but I simply now enable the secondary chroma key, and you see right away now it's on yellow and on green. And so the layer itself is accumulating my effect settings on a single layer. Add another effect, add another chroma key, and on this chroma key over here, I will slide this to more the bluish side over here and switching back into the live view, and you see now all of a sudden I have 3 chroma keys on the same source over here. And this is just a keying effect. So if I now decide I want to use this transform over here or use the GUI itself as a control, and I want to shift this back, something like this, and come back to the live view, and now you see it's in that area. So when I put the corner panning on and enable the corner panning, not over here, that was stupid, of course, on that layer, corner panning on, and drag this off just a little, something like that, and this, and come back to the live view. See, this all happens on a single layer. So that's mainly the difference between what is a keyer and a layer. A key and the regular switcher can just make the difference between a chroma key or luminance key. Here I can add chroma keys and luminance key all on the same layer and add on and add on and add on. So it's more like a compositing tool in this respect. However, though, saying, okay, I'm on main, let me reset all of this. Reset, 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 and turn this all off. Don't need this one any longer. And don't need this one any longer. And turn this off, turn this off. Okay. Now and that area over here is very typically on a generic switcher. You have something like cross-point assignment, button assignment. On Kairos over here, we call this source options, where you can determine for each and every bus within the system which cross points are necessary at this point in time for this particular bus. Now, as an example, saying in a generic installation, regardless if it's a truck or a newsroom. So typically you will find DSK1, CG1, DSK2, CG2 maximum if you have a secondary channel. But I will never ever switch on a camera 1 or camera 2 or any of the VTRs or so on this particular bus. Now the default when I started the system was saying source options coming up with show me black, white, color A, B, and C, and then a list of all my physical inputs. So you know what? I want to erase all of this, and you see this all now disappeared from this bus. Now I can go for some subfolders over here, all my inputs, all my clip layers, all my RAM channels, all my stills. Or I can go in here saying, you know what, the only thing what I need in here is my graphics engine, whereby now this is my internal graphics engine, and that's the only one on this bus. If it's only one source, I can simply manually load this in here, clicking on this bus, so I don't need this any longer. So doing the same example here, source options, I delete them all. Okay, so the bus is empty, there's no action, there's nothing over here. But on this cross point as a source, I want to have graphics B over here because nothing else needed over here. If it's a 2-channel device, I probably have for graphics 1 as a bailout graphics channel 2 over here and same over here. So we'll do it for 1. Source options, I can open the context menu here, or I can do a right mouse, click over here, go into the source options, edit, saying I want to add also my graphics channel number 2. Done. Okay. And now I want to have the same setting, what you see here, graphics 1, graphics 2, I want to have the same setting in this one. So right mouse clicks, source options, copy. Here, right mouse click, source options, paste. Done. So I have the same things over here as well. Now, the color for all of this here at this moment is main. I decided that this scene color is red. The layer color, this is blue, the next one is yellowish, and you see it's also reflected on my virtual bus within the GUI, but it's also reflected in the same style on my physical control panel, as well as on my panel simulation, what I can also run in the background. So these are the different items I'm running in that. Now, another cool feature actually is, let me change this here and add my clip layers to that. All my clip layers is 2 channels, that's good. So they're here. And turn this one on again. And I want to enable my transforms. And let's say make this just an over-the-shoulder box, upper left corner. Typical task at this point is, can we do a dissolve in here? Yeah, we can do dissolves on every bus, regardless which bus that is within Kairos. Going to my advanced settings, the easiest one would be, let's say, dissolve enable. And now from here on, I can determine not only a mix, I can also apply wipes or DVE effects or user effects like replay graphics to put this on, just to prove that. So I'm going to wipes over here, saying I want to do a simple circle wipe, just for the heck. And our selecting the next cross point will automatically wipe within that box. Now, to show you that, I'm taking a secondary GUI over here, and I want to get you back into the live view. You see the upper left corner, there's the over-the-shoulder box, and of course it's the end of the clip. So I'm clicking, as you can see here in the lower right corner, so the screen is hidden everywhere. So you see this in the lower right corner, when you see the effects GUI window in the lower right, there's a small little mouse pointer. So here I'm clicking the next cross point, and then you can see how then I'm just wiping within that box like that, as simple as that. So doing also wipe in every of the layers. However, that would be one way. Another one would be saying, you know what, I don't want to do it this way. I want to have a program preset kind of functionality. So I disable the dissolve, but I will enable the preset bus of it, which is disabled at this moment. And you see here is only one bus selectable. So I enable the preset bus, and now from here on, I have the preset side available for this. Now I'm saying, okay, this is my next cross point. And then I can hit the swap button just to swap the cross point over here, or I can build a transition for that. To build a transition for this is going to the transition side in here, saying this, at this moment, I'm on my layer number 1. And let's call this layer the OTS layer. Layer 1 is just a default name. Layer 1, call this OTS, and OTS left or what. So now I can identify this beast here also, saying, okay, ATS has the AB functionality enabled. And now I have 2 types of transitions. So let me delete or reset the other ones. I have the so-called the categories on-off categories, and I have the so-called AB categories, saying, okay, I want to build a on-off transition for this, for this layer, and just simply click on it or double click. It will put this on, and call this OTS on minus off. And for this one over here, I will do another time a wipe, and I do the same type of wipe. You use a circle wipe over here, and this circle wipe here, give it a different name. This should be OTS minus wipe. So now I can identify those transitions as well. Changing duration, just click on this. You can do it with the context menu, transition and set duration, or Control D. Or you simply pick that duration over here, saying I want to make this a 40 frame duration for whatever reason. And this should be in a 12 on-off duration. And here are my transitions. So I can execute them from these order buttons over here. But I can now also go into my control panel, and you see that's the OTS on-off, and that's the OTS wipe with the according duration times over here, right? And I will now go back into my live view and going to execute this on my other control panel down here, and I will click on the buttons, and then you see, okay, that's the on-off transition, and that's the wipe transition into the next cross point. Even so, when I have this cross point in here, and now do the transition again, and it's the graphics. There's my next transition, and it's going back to that one. Okay, macros as a quick one. I'm going to my control panel, saying, building a simple macro, saying what I want to execute is actually I want to go into my input number 2 and bring input number 2 to air. Yeah, so I will lose these elements here just for a sec. There's my next transition bits. Saying, okay, this is the record button for the so-called global macros. I have 3 sections of macros. I have the so-called global macros, I have the scene macros, and I have panel macros. So you can hook up, of course, multiple control panels. I have 8 different user profiles. They all have their individual panel macros. I have scenes which are belonging to a scene. So when I go into this scene, open this up. So the 2 box, the 4 box, they all have individual macros available in here once they're programmed. That is the scene macro and the global macro over here. Now, recording a global macro, saying I want to switch to input number 2 and ensure that I'm on background transition, and then hit the auto trans. I can also incorporate the duration time and whatnot. Okay, so regardless where I'm coming from. So this is the main record button. Double check again, go into my controls on my global, and you see it will automatically record at the far end over here. So regardless which menu I am, coming back to my control, hit the record button, and I'm saying I want to go to my input number 2, and next transition background, and hit the auto. I could have hit the auto button down here as well and run this auto trans. And that's my macro. Stop the macro and go back to the macro page. So I recorded this record number 3 button over here. So let's give it a call, give it hope. Hope always good. So what is inside that macro? Edit dialog. So a whole lot of stuff, new macro, new space. You can build spaces in between the way they are appearing on the control panel as well. The same what you can do on cross points, put spaces in between. You can create new directories. Hit the play, see all the shortcuts, the keyboard shortcuts in the context menu, copy and paste them, move them left and right, rename and delete them. Go into the edit dialog, and so you see now in a readable form, you see, okay, the very first thing is set main layers background source B, so on the preset bus to define this is my input number 2, and make my background mix my next transition type, which that's the transition which is called with the name background mix at this moment, and then hit the transition auto button. So in a readable form, that's actually what we're doing in here. This is based on a Lua interpreting language, programming language. And now from here, I can change, can put in pauses, and I can change the input number and whatnot. It's all text-based. Now, coming back to my control panel over here, and say, okay, I want to go back to that my next transition. This setting on black, and on our program, let's say put this on input 7 or something like this, or something like that. And I will execute the macro. Now, executing the macro, I can do this from a secondary GUI over here again. And I will do that over here. Just give me a moment. Macros, and by double clicking, I will show you that also in the menu, just that you see what happens here on my cross points over here. Now I'm double clicking the macro, and that was the execution already. Double click again, and also make sure, so it will preset input number 2 and will change to my background mix transition type, and then hit the auto trans. And that's how it works. Now in that GUI, in the main GUI, it looks like that. So I double click that hope button, but I can also use the buttons down in here, like regular cross point buttons, but just executing macros. So more complex style of macros, when you really are deep into the system, let's say I'm going to my for box over here, you see, I was building a loop sequence, so it's looping 3 times. And within the Lua programming language, you can set certain conditions within the system. It's all based on the text, where they are located, scenes, templates, for box, effect. The state of that layer is on, or the state of the layer is off. What is the progress of the transition? And then here's the so-called for next loop element. So for I equals to 1, 3, go to 1, do. So this is looping that sequence down here 3 times and then reaching the end. So that would be one example for a more complex one. If I want to do an infinite loop, it is more like this. Also, I'm setting up preconditions over here, and then this is the command in Lua saying while true do, and it will always execute now this element from here after the line between this line and the end line, and endlessly looping this sequence over here.